I just wanted to give everybody an introduction to how mindfulness can help you in your classrooms and specifically with social emotional learning. So many of you may be new to mindfulness, and I thought this was kind of a perfect time to have a session like this because we've had so many new members with our Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully recently. We've partnered with, I think about a dozen ROEs now so far in Illinois, regional offices of education, but we've also partnered with, we're partnering with Delaware Department of Education for group memberships, as well as New York City Department of Education. So we're a group of educators that formed this nonprofit a little over 3 years ago, and really to support educators with their self-care and personal journeys in mindfulness. And then what you'll find when you start doing mindfulness is you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I had learned this when I was younger. I want to teach my students this. Because really we're finding, and research is finding, that kids, preschoolers can be benefiting from some of the simple practices that that mindfulness offers. And so when we have new members join, we figure we're recording tonight or this afternoon, so that this is just going to be a perfect video to get started. If you're newer to mindfulness, I'll share some of my favorite practices and that I've learned so much over the last 3 years from other educators. We're really just this kind of a cooperative community, and we're mentoring each other, learning from each other. And so kind of like a co-op, the more members we have, the more benefits everybody can have. So we have a board of directors, like 16 educators. We kind of keep taking turns being in the leadership to decide how we use our membership dues. And so we're always looking for new things to share with everybody. And so when we think of the Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully, just know that it's like our organization. It's kind of like a PTO, like you're already a member, really. And just the more you would like to get involved, the better. So let me look to our next thing. I just want to give a quick definition of what we've called mindfulness-based SEL, MBSEL. That term really isn't being used a lot. So we're hoping that it gains momentum. And really all it means is that combining of the two, the mindfulness and SEL. So mindfulness-based practices being, it could be yoga, anything that we are bringing our awareness more fully into the present moment. And really, I'll go into this a little bit more in a few slides, but changing those neural networks in the brain that support all learning. So we kind of think of mindfulness more as an inward out learning, because even if you weren't explicitly taught anything about mindfulness, just that sitting, contemplating, reflecting, that stillness, we learn so much just from like listening to our inner voice. It's almost like it's a necessary counteraction to the social media and all the digital and the distractions that you intuitively just will gain a lot of benefits, just even if you didn't have explicit instruction in mindfulness. It's an innate human talent, ability. And then we also think of SEL a little bit more like an outward in approach, in that we're teaching a lot of those life skills, such as conflict resolution skills, to students. And when we combine the two is when kind of the magic happens, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But I want to first start with a mindful moment. And so I want, if you've been sitting a lot today, feel free to do this mindful moment standing up, or if you're ready to just take a seat, we'll put our feet flat on the ground. So you can do this type of practice anywhere. You can do it if you're walking down the hallway, you could be doing it with us. And we're gonna sit up tall, so kind of just feel those sit bones. Let your body be relaxed. It might take maybe a few shoulder rolls to help you do that. And then with our eyes, we can look down or close them gently. And I'm just gonna ring what's called a vibratone, and it might not sound very pretty over the Zoom, but it sounds prettier in person. But as we are just settling into our body, let's listen to the sound of the tone. See if you can listen to when it, the very end, and when you stop hearing it. And then we'll just bring our awareness to our breath, feeling it moving in and out of our body, not changing it, but watching it as it changes naturally as we give it attention. And then I'll ring the vibratone one more time. And when we can't hear it any longer, we can open up our eyes. And open up your eyes if you haven't yet. I just kind of show this to everybody. This is what I feel is one of the best, it's still ringing over here on my end. This is what I feel is one of the best ways to introduce mindfulness, especially if you've hopefully done trauma sensitive training. Like sometimes closing your eyes and focusing your breath is not a good situation for someone who's had trauma recently or in the past. But listening to sounds is a great gateway to kind of start off and see how everybody does with experiencing it, because it's something very it's one of the five senses, and the listening, and it really just calms the nervous system very easily. So it's often said that mindfulness practices are simple, but not always easy. So as you can see that with doing that, your mind may have started to wander while you were doing your breathing. So the instructions are often very simple, but doing it is what takes practice. And we always tell everybody that you can't do mindfulness wrong. One of the most common definitions of mindfulness I have up here from John Kabat-Zinn is paying attention in a particular way. So these are the qualities of mindfulness. On purpose, meaning that it's intentional. Like our attention is moving to different places all day long. But with mindfulness, we're making an intention to pause and do a specific practice, whether that just be, you're doing the laundry and you're all of a sudden you notice your mind wandering and you're like, okay, I'm gonna be intentional and, really focus on the joy that I get to do this laundry, because someday, I might not have all these kids running around and there won't be so much laundry to do. So just kind of looking for the positives in the moment and bringing intention to the present moment. So the present moment being that you'll find when you start being aware of your thoughts and taking moments to pause and watch your thoughts, that most of the day is not necessarily in the present moment. You are thinking about what is going to come later today, like what you're going to make for dinner next, and how you're going to, if you can stay the whole time, and how's things going to work out tonight. Or you might be thinking about the past. So in bed tonight, you may be trying to fall asleep, but you're thinking of some conversation you had with your administrator or a student that maybe didn't quite go right, and you're replaying things in your mind. So when we come into the present moment and do mindfulness practices like a listening exercise, or in bed at night, bringing your awareness to your senses and your body sensations and relaxating, it actually, we can't necessarily, our different parts of our brain, when our sensing brain, part of our brain is turned on, it turns down the thinking part of our brain. So there's science behind all these practices that we do to help us grow our prefrontal cortex and kind of shrink our amygdala and those fight and flight responses. And judgmentally, I like to think of, it's almost impossible to like live non-judgmentally. Obviously, we want to have discernment. That's how we have evolved to be to where we're at. And it's a very good thing to have judgments and discernment. But kind of think of how if you're scrolling through social media and just those, it's like your brain can't stop making judgments all day long. It's like you have this roommate in your head that and you just want to shut it off sometimes. So mindfulness is about noticing that. And I often find that even just when I notice those thoughts, because we don't, even just teaching kids that our thoughts are not all true and we don't have to believe all of our thoughts, it's like a relief to kids. Like that would have been such a relief to me as a child. Like I was always so like the gossip and the girls talking and judging each other. It was very stressful for me. And like when I had thoughts, I felt guilty, you know. So just like learning little things like that with judgments and those coming up to help with that is so powerful for students and us. I find that now when I go on Facebook, each or whatever I'm on, like each image I see, I say blessings, or like I send blessings. I kind of try to nick the thoughts before they even come, because I know what happens when I go there. And then the other mindfulness qualities, kindness and curiosity. So mindfulness is all about kind of, and that's a lot with resilient mindset as well. You'll feel that similarity, that we are, it's often like there's this book called Puppy Mind that I like. So it's almost like we're training our mind like we would train a puppy. And we know that scorning a puppy or hitting a puppy, or, you know, having those type of interactions with a puppy does not help him get trained. And so we have to kind of think of our mind that same way. And all right, so I want to move on a little bit faster here so that we, this is a 90-minute session, but I don't know if we'll let go that long. We'll see how quickly I can get through everything. And definitely stop if you have any questions, or if you have something else that you are thinking of that came up that you think would be helpful to share. So just quickly, the why of mindfulness and yoga. You probably, if you're here at this session, you probably have learned in some way or another the benefits of mindfulness. And I put yoga as well, because mindfulness-based practices, I think of yoga as mindful movement, and it kind of falls in that category of Tai Chi and a lot of other things that kids love to do also. And again, speaking of trauma, like coming in through the movement realm into mindfulness is very beneficial for kids who have had trauma, and adults as well, and helping heal that. So definitely supporting our academic goals. I love this pyramid here that's from the book, Teaching Transformative Life Skills to Students, which is a mindfulness curriculum that has a CASEL designation. It's a wonderful book. I think it just costs like $25 on Amazon, but It includes like 48 lessons, each 15 minutes long, and they each have a mindful action, breathing, and centering. And what we know from research is that optimal information processing happens with all of these. So think about how we've evolved. We've evolved this far from walking like 12 miles a day. We've evolved with major amounts of movement, and we're pretty much doing nothing movement during the day compared to what we did in the past. So having that kinesthetic element, my husband's a PE teacher, so he would be like, yes, 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 we need that movement. And then also the emotional, think mind, body, heart here, mind, body, emotions. We need all of that for supporting our academic goals. So the breathing, the focusing and centering exercises all help with that. And with the SEL programs, what I've had principals tell me when they've added in the mindfulness piece to whatever program they're using, whether it's a bullying program, Second Step, or any of the SEL programs out there, that they find that mindfulness is the secret sauce that supercharges it. So before they use mindfulness practices, what might happen is they teach a conflict resolution lesson, and maybe a STOP acronym, something that is going to empower the students. And then they get out in the playground and something happens and you go on autopilot. You're used to a certain reaction, and what they find mindfulness does, and integrating it daily throughout, even better throughout the day, morning meetings, after lunch, after recess, at the end of the day, that it creates that space between stimulus and response, so that when, and teaching hands on your heart, hands on your belly, and breathing, when you're doing it when there's not a conflict, then when those conflicts happen, they know to go to that skill, and that self-regulation, helping with that self-regulation piece of the castle puzzle. What I also wanted to bring up here is something that I learned from Greater Good Science Center, and I want to give as a resource. I have it later here, but Greater Good Science Center has found, and research has found, that there are six skills for sustainable happiness, and mindfulness is one of them. The others are listed here, but and I think we all agree that if you can have all the academic success in the world, but if you're not going to be thriving in life and be happy, then what was the education for if that can't also happen? And then I just listed some of the other mindfulness objectives from research. And to kind of get to know those a little better, we're going to do a little mindful reflection here. And again, if you've been sitting, I'm going to look at the screen and kind of take a stretch. I want you to just look at all these executive functioning skills and think of where you are today with them, and just take a moment of reflection. So whether that's standing up and stretching and then kind of looking at it, or you could even take a journal and kind of write down. But I love the way Daniel Reckshafen kind of uses the adjectives he uses here. And I'll be quiet for a minute while we do this. Look at everybody who's here. It's so great to see everybody. Maybe give a little thumbs up or a party blast when you're done. Take your time. And I can give everybody the slides when we're done here if you want to share this out or in any meetings that you have. What I also did was created a Google form version of this. And I think it would be a great way to kind of track your progress of different mindfulness practices you're using and progress you're just making in your personal life with these skills. It could also be kind of a check-in that you do with older students. I love how was your focus? Were you a samurai or were you spaced out, vigilant or reckless? Because a lot of these words, teaching a student, what does metacognition mean? Or even us as adults, like, oh, this isn't the kind of exact definition, but it gets you seeing all the different ways that mindfulness has shown to help in all these ways as well. And also Daniel Rechtschafen's book, The Mindful Way of Education. I think it's a great book for educators because it speaks their language with the 5 realms of mindful literacy. And he also teaches how to unfold the learning with mindfulness. So obviously we don't want to move right into the emotional realm. And because what you probably find, even working with adults, sometimes even more with adults, from what has happened in our lives, we may start, disassociating and maybe not even feel what's happening in our body. So first we want to have that physical literacy, do sense awareness activities, like obviously the listening exercise is one of those with the sense of hearing, but you can bring in those essential oils and different things and do some mindful smelling, mindful eating, bringing different textures where they're feeling into bags, doing mindful feeling, and yoga, of course, but getting them to sense where they have tension in their body and start teaching and learning how to dissolve that tension. With the mindful literacy, I think one of the most powerful things to teach is the anchor breathing. And not just anchor breathing, but just it could be using your feet as an anchor, or hands on heart, hands on belly as an anchor, and just kind of feeling your breath moving through you as an anchor. Think of that boat on an ocean, out in a wavy ocean analogy, and you're putting down that anchor to help us from getting too far away, kind of finding that equanimity. So the waves being things that come up during the day, the different stresses that we have. You can even have them draw pictures of some waves and put their different stressors in each of the waves and have them draw out what that anchor kind of looks like as an art project. Emotional literacy, a few examples here, definitely gratitude exercises, heartfulness phrases like I have here. And I'm sure everybody's heard of zones of regulation by this time, and ruler, bringing our awareness to all the different emotions that we have and gaining literacy in that area. But then we can move into the social literacy and global literacy, interconnectedness, and even just using that mindful eating, whether it's an M&M or a little chocolate or an orange or a grape, something you can bring in, and think of all the way, everything that had to go into getting that grape to us to be eating it, and how everything's interconnected, and we cannot just live, in a solo universe. Everything is dependent on other things. So I just want to go in a little bit of just some of the beginning practices. But before you even begin, and I'm going to say this at the end and we keep saying it over and over again, that like, don't be too raring to go at the beginning. Like, really just focus on yourself and bringing mindfulness into your own life. And it will naturally, as you get more comfortable and get more practice doing it for yourself, you'll feel more comfortable doing it with students. But when you are ready to introduce it with students, you definitely have to show the relevance there. So whether, if you're a music or a drama teacher and you know that that's what the students are into, or if you know that everyone likes a certain athlete, bringing in that. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. And I also wanted to just bring up this learn, experience, happiness. And that is, hold on a second. I'm going to switch to another website here. To the learn, this is a really great resource. And one of CASEL's sponsors is actually LG. And so Greater Good Science Center partnered with LG and CASEL and InterExplorer and Discovery Education to build this website here. And it has lots of great resources. I really love the field trip. It's like 24 minutes long. And it's a great way to show relevance with those 6 sustainable happiness skills. And so they have a longer video and then they have shorter ones. So I remember when I first started teaching mindfulness, I was doing it a lot and I was a yoga instructor, but I couldn't even remember the definition of mindfulness, like just to say it on my own, obviously the more you teach it, the more you start remembering it. But having a video like this, like a 3-minute video, and it's a really great one with students talking throughout it. And I'll put this in the chat here, but this would be a great resource for everybody. All right. Let me go back one. I keep having to slide it because I have your pretty faces at the top here. A few other ways is, especially with the older kids, mindfulness is, the term's around everywhere now. So you might just even start by saying, what do you think it means? Or, write mindfulness on the board and have everybody write up words or put post-its of what they think it means. And you'll probably be some of the answers might be pretty profound that people might know about it. And you might find out a lot of the stereotypes that go with it too, like the OM or whatever or whatnot. You could do something like raise your hand if you have ever, and then just think of like, if say educators, have you ever like driven down the road on your way to work and then just been like, where did the last 10 minutes go? I don't even remember like any of those stoplights of how I got to here. It kind of say like all the different ways that we're on autopilot in our life. And that kind of gets, like, okay, that's what's not mindful. So being mindful helps, and mindfulness practices help us so that those moments don't happen as often. And asking kids like, we're always telling kids, pay attention, I have important instructions to give, or, oh, don't stress out, like, don't make a big deal of this, don't stress out. But whoever teaches them how to pay attention or how to not be stressed out, we kind of are expecting this, and it's not a skill that's taught. So that's a relevant way to go about it. And I just love this quote from Viktor Frankl about the stimulus and response in that space where our freedom is, and that power to choose. The more we're mindful, the more we have. Really, the only power we have is in the present moment. And if we're always kind of in the past and the future, our life is not going to be as wonderful as it would be otherwise. For younger students, oh my gosh, there are so many books now. Like I could have had 100 slides here, but I like these slides are a few years old, but these are some that I really love. And if you have any others that you love, go ahead and put them in the chat box. We'd love to hear that, what you're finding that they like. So some starters I'm going to do some starters for elementary and then some starters for the older kids. But again, like these are just, when you're first getting started, this is kind of like dipping your toe in the water. And then as you get more comfortable with mindfulness, you can start teaching, more in-depth lessons. And you could get a curriculum book, like Learning to Breathe or something, where you have a specific lesson plan where you're teaching them, about brain science or the nature of thoughts and the different qualities of mindfulness. But for just getting started, mindful listening, of course. I learned from Inner Explorer, it's called the shark fin. It kind of helps you get ready for a mindful moment. So let's try that together. We're gonna put our hand like a shark fin. We're gonna put our thumb right on our forehead. And as we bring our hands down, we're gonna make the either the sh sound or the s sound. So it's kind of a calming sound. We can stop when it gets to our chest. And then we can take a few breaths together. So that can kind of, I know some people do, okay, everybody focus. So that could be your way of kind of bringing everybody into focus. And you can learn the 5 S's of mindful posture as you do that. So sitting straight, still, silent, soft breathing, because sometimes kids will be wanting to go. So, soft breathing and shut eyes, which is always optional. So we never want to require that. We also never want to require that they do mindfulness and meditation with us, because again, we don't know where they are and what trauma that they've experienced. And often the kids who you think aren't listening, who are like doing other things, and they're learning, they're getting it. So looks can be deceiving. A nice one to do is a weather check for the younger kids and kind of relate our emotions to the weather, that they're always changing, and like, oh, what's the weather like feeling inside your body right now, like with the body's thoughts, body sensation, thoughts, and emotions. Some fun ways to get started with the breath are hot cocoa breath. So why don't we, if you've been sitting and want to stand up, you can do these standing up too. So we're going to take our bowl of hot cocoa and let's just breathe it in, everybody. I've got my tea here. I can actually do it with my tea. Take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, I want you to breathe out through your mouth and just almost like you're blowing a candle. This could be a candle breath too, and you don't want to blow out the candle. So you're just breathing over that hot cocoa. And that gets us a nice long exhale that's really relaxing and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. The starfish breath, there's a few different ones for this. You can do it standing up like a starfish too, but often it's taught with our hands. So let's try this one out. Put your hand out in front of you, or you could even set it down and trace it on the desk. But we're gonna breathe in as we glide our finger up the thumb, and then breathe out. And we're just gonna trace and breathe. And this one's great because it has that touch with it as well. When you can add in any sensory layers, it adds that extra relaxation. The elevator breath, and these slides are a few years old. I'm like, what is the elevator breath? If you don't know what it is, you can always be like, kids, what should we do? It's called the elevator breath. What should it look like? So I think this one is with our hands, and we can raise them up as we breathe in and back out. And maybe think of what your elevator would look like. Maybe it's a bigger elevator. We're going up like this and down like this. And let's put our hands into loose fists, and we're going to open them up like a sunburst, like we're holding suns in our hand, and exhale, close them. And we could be a whole big sun, and our whole body could be opening up for a sunburst breath. And now this one feels, I think this is sort of like the butterfly breath. If you're yoga, you might know what that I call the butterfly pose, when you bring your 2 feet together so you can flap your butterfly wings if you're sitting on your meeting rug. The dolphin breath I learned from Daniel Ruckshape, and I think this was in there. They have the Alpha Breaths book is so great, and they're making another one too, and I hear they're making one with numbers as well. I saw on Facebook. So dolphin breath, breathing in, breathing out, and going up and down. So those are just a few to get you started. And again, I'll put these slides in the chat at the end. With yoga, like some people think you have to be trained in yoga to do in your classroom. I don't really believe that. And I'm a yoga instructor, but I think kind of if you're feeling comfortable with it, then go for it. And my husband proved me with this one. He knows I'm a yoga instructor. He hasn't taken any classes from me. And then he comes home and he's like, oh, I taught yoga in my class today. I was like, what? How do you do that? He's like, well, I just went on, he just searched images, kids yoga poses, and he put a bunch of them on his iPad, and he just kind of scrolls through them and he does them together. And he doesn't claim to be an expert, but he's like, hey, this feels good. Let's try some of these together and learn together and see how we feel. Obviously, there's lots of books at your library, so you don't need, there's so many great ones. I would always go to the library first and find ones that I like first before I would invest my money in them. There's so many great yoga card decks. You could make stations around the classroom. Pure Edge is a free curriculum that's yoga based. So you pretty much just have to put in your email and you get, a bunch of a whole curriculum, yoga based, which with a bunch of cute worksheets as well with, I think they're frogs and dragons. So, and also Pure Edge is a castle designated, I think the curriculum is called Pure Power, and it has a castle designation. Move Mindfully is another great resources for yoga. They're doing a session at our conference, so that made me think of them. Slow motion arm movements, like with a partner, that we can be moving our hands and kind of following each other, is a great one for mindfulness and slowing down. A shake freeze game with music, where you're playing music and then when you stop, maybe go into yoga pose or do a few of your different breaths, like a butterfly breath or something like this. And another one I haven't done, but I read, I think it was in Daniel Ruckshapen's book as well. It's called Around the Room, where I guess you wouldn't be able to have too big of a class, but each have half the class get on each side of the room, and then you're just walking mindfully to the other side of the room. So you're gonna kind of have to not bump into each other and find a way to do that. Those are just a few fun ones for elementary school age. Starters that I like for the middle and high school age, and of course these can also be modified. What you'll find with yoga or with mindfulness practices is that they really are almost all can be done with any age. So a lot of things that you do with the adults, you can also easily modify for students. You can have them check in and just take those few breaths and lead them through, what is my energy level? What have my thoughts been like? What are my emotions? And just teach them to be checking in, whether that's at the start of each class they have with you, or starting it with some classical music or other music. Sometimes you can, on YouTube and other places, they have the breathing GIFs. They're like little videos of like a ball expanding and coming back in, kind of like the Huberman sphere, but digital. And those are really nice to get you going. Anchoring with hands on hearts, hand on belly. Everybody put their one hand on their heart, one on their belly, and just kind of press in a little bit on your heart area there. That's your thymus gland, even right under there, which activates your immune system. Right up here under your collarbone, it's called K27 acupuncture point, and it's a brain button. So when we press that, it actually activates the body to send more blood and oxygen to the brain. So anytime we're like that sensory and pressing, our body has technology when we do things. And then counting breaths is always a really easy one to get started with. And if we want to add sensory to it, you can count as you touch your different fingers. So you can breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Try it with me. Let's see some fingers up there. Breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you could even just count them. Breathe in and breathe out is 1, and then you move to the next. Breathe in and out. It's 2. So I've seen in elementary, and I could see this also being nice for older kids as well, like even beads on a string where you're counting to help build that focus and keep the focus there. Let me just pick out a few more on here. The different types of mindfulness. So you have those focused awareness, mindfulness practices, as well as like the open awareness. So it's kind of more of the what, if you're looking through a microscope at something, so you could pay attention just to the breath moving in and out of your nostrils. Let's do that for a moment and just feel the breath coming in nice and cool. And then as you breathe out, feel the air warmer through your nostrils. Another focused awareness could be just focusing on a flower. One of the definitions of meditation is just becoming familiar with. That's a meditation. So you could be becoming familiar with a candle flame, or a piece of artwork. You can really use any object to build and have a mindfulness practice. A mandala is always a fun one, and kids love to create them. I love to create them. We had a little session in for our professional members this spring where we created mandalas with just a black pen. So I add a little bit to it every once in a while, make it more fancy. And the older kids, sometimes they don't want to be moving around in class and kind of doing the yoga with each other. But if you stick to the desk and let's just for a moment move all different ways. So let's breathe in and out as we twist. Starting a class, just taking a breath here as we twist. Taking a breath in as we lean back, maybe even go way back in the back of your chair. Folding over, reaching for the ground, just letting your belly hang on your thighs as you take a nice long breath out. Let your head hang. Slowly coming up, putting your arms up above and bending side to side like a palm tree. Just going all the different directions, getting that blood moving up and down the spine. All right, so my next slide is just that reminder that we want to start always with ourselves, with our own self-care. And as we start doing that, then we'll naturally want to bring it out into our classes. And with your class, doing it with your class will guarantee that you get that self-care. If you really think about it, you're either taking care of yourself or you're moving in the self-destruction direction. So if you're not taking care of yourself all day long, not just massage every once in a while, or what we think of as that pampering, but it really needs to be something that we're doing all day long. So one way you can do this is making little Post-its. I heard a quote this week and I wrote it on a Post-it. It says, I am where joy comes from. So like just putting that, I'll put it on my computer, and when I see it, it will remind me to take a few breaths and know that truth. One thing you can also do is set a timer. So Insight Timer is an app, and I'm sure there's other apps you can do this, and you can just put in a time like every 17 minutes, and you can have all these different bells that are beautiful sounding, and just they will randomly go off throughout the day, and then you and your class, whatever happens, you hear that nice that bell that relaxes us, reminds us to take a breath together. And really, it can just be very simple practices, whether it's, we all know we want to be drinking more water. So each time we drink water, let's also, twist our body in all 4 directions and take a little break that way. So I just want to hear, I'll lead you through a little meditation here, but what other ways, like the drinking the water, are any other ways anybody wants to share that they do? What are some self-care practices that you like to do? Any Post-its in anybody's rooms right now you want to share what they are? All right. I'm going to lead everybody through a little meditation here, and I'd like everybody to stand up. You don't have to, but this is going to be a practice that if you are in your classroom, so we're not even going to close our eyes. And it's the translucent mountain meditation. I learned this in the mindful school training. I think it was, I don't know if it was the first or the second one, but just imagine you're standing in the front of your class before, class starts, and feel your feet, maybe wiggle your toes, and just make yourself into a mountain. Really visualize that unshakable. From your waist down, you're just solid as a rock. If somebody came over and bumped into you, you wouldn't move. Let's take some deep breaths here, deep into our lower lungs. Deep belly breaths, eyes open still. You can just have a soft gaze, looking out, still focusing on our feet and our breath. Imagine you're looking out into your class. And then bring your awareness and focus to your heart. You can maybe even put your hand on your heart. And the translucent part of our meditation comes with, as we stand here, just feeling, knowing that anything that comes up in this class we're about to start, it's just going to flow through me without sticking, without needing any reactions from me. And just really feel that unshakable, nothing's gonna stick or affect me. And with our heart, just visualize that heart's energy, our love and our caring, our compassion for our students and our class, reaching out to the edges of your classroom. Share this groundedness that you've created in your nervous system with your entire class, making it a safe, grounding container for everyone to thrive and learn. Release your arm if you want to, and we'll come back to a sit. And that can be done really quickly at the start of each class, of just making that intention, taking a few of those deep breaths, feeling those feet, the mountain. Because as stress builds throughout the day, I bet you have noticed that you might get triggered more easily later in the day when you're more hungry or more tired. And this is kind of like an energizing pose and meditation to help you just, and maybe you have other intentions that you want to make at the start of a class as well. Like if something came up earlier in the day that you want to, a reminder to do it while you do that. So I just wanted to share also a few apps you probably have already heard of, like Headspace and Calm. Insight Timer is a really great one as well. They have a lot of different people leading the meditations. Like there's some meditations by Goldie Hawn with Mind Up, and that's one of the mindfulness curriculums that's Castle designated. 10% Happier is great. That's with Dan Harris, ABC News anchor who had an anxiety attack on camera and then learned all about mindfulness and wrote a really cool book on it. I think it's called Mindfulness for Fidgety Skeptics or something like that. Java Mind is a newer one that I really love, and they are a sponsor of COSEM and are leading a session at our conference. But their app is just for teachers, and central to it is iRest meditations and relaxation, which are these longer body scan focused meditation that it's had a lot of research done on it with like military and such, of how it's helped with PTSD. And we know that teachers are experiencing a lot of post or secondary trauma just from teaching kids who have trauma. So taking care of ourselves, that's a great way to do it. And if you subscribe to our newsletter and join our membership, we're always weekly giving out more resources, but mindful.org is just a general wonderful one that they will send you. If you're looking for meditations to share with staff or to do each week, they often will send them out either in audio or written up form to build your toolkit of meditations. So that's my introduction to mindfulness and some of my favorite things. We have a lot of different people leading PD and mentorship sessions with our professional membership each month. And we started as a coalition. The first year we just did an annual conference, and we were a smaller group and just getting going. We were kind of basically the last 3 years as we've grown, we've just kept adding more and more resources for educators. So the first year it was just the conference, and we did it in person. I live in St. Charles, Illinois, so we did it there. Then the second year, we moved it to Itasca, Illinois, to get it closer to the airport. And the second year, we also did a book collaboration with 40 different educators, and we call this the field guide for bringing mindfulness to schools. There's a chapter written by a speech pathologist, a school nurse, a director of equity, an SEL specialist. Pretty much every role within a school, we have a chapter written by that, so that you're learning all different ways that mindfulness and yoga can be brought into classes. And along with just them telling their personal and professional stories of bringing it either into their class, school, or district-wide. They also share their favorite practices, what curriculums they've loved. So you're kind of building that. It ends up being a comprehensive resource, just having this. And I think it's like $16 now on Amazon. But so that's just a resource that keeps on giving. And so the second year we did our conference in Itasca, and we have over 40 different presenters, and it's a multi-day event. So we have people from all over the world attending it. And we try to make it into kind of a healing while learning. So it's a little bit like an unconference. We have parts of it be more like a regular conference, like breakout sessions. You have lots of different ones to choose from. And then other parts of it are focused on adult SEL and healing and just recharging. We've always had it in February, so that it's a perfect time of year to kind of recharge and like get re-inspired to finish out your school year. Last year we did it virtually, and then this year we're going back to in-person, so we're very excited about that. It's going to be on February 4th through the 6th, and we just started registration for it. We're doing virtual and in-person, and so it's going to be a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you pretty much kind of decide which days you'll go in person and which days virtual. So if you're local, maybe you can't get off school on Friday, but you can still come join us in person on Saturday or Sunday. Or maybe you're able to get off work on Friday, but you have family stuff on the weekend. So you can kind of switch it around like that. But I hope you check out that. We just launched registration yesterday and have our presenter lineup all set. We have the keynote is with our president, Toby Scruggs-Hussein, and then she's an award-winning urban principal out in California. Also for our keynotes, we're having SEL Hub Director Sarah Bates, who's at ROE4 in Rockford. She's gonna do one of the keynotes with a superintendent from Montgomery County Educational Service Center in Ohio. So we have presenters coming from all over for it. Another thing that we just launched is an MBSL micro-credential program. And this is for someone who's more committed to bringing MBSL practices to their schools. And you may know micro-credentials from like the NEA. NEA offers hundreds of them, and they're kind of a very focused competency, showing your competency in a very focused subject area. So we wanted to make ours a little bit different and more intensive. It's not a curriculum or a certification, but it's a way of showing your competency so that when you interview with somebody or when, you know, on your email, you could, as a subject or the email footer, that you can kind of signal a signal of recognition for having competency in the area. And we have about 8 hours of learning modules pre-recorded from 6 different experienced educators, most of them SEL specialists who have been bringing mindfulness into their classrooms and schools for the last few years. So definitely check that out if you want to learn more. But I would say kind of the first, if you're looking to get started, to join us as a professional member. And you can join through your ROE or individually. We have scholarships for anybody. So really there's a link on our website on the membership page. You can just click and join for free. And what we do is we use the Mighty Networks platform, and it's a community building platform. So it's a little like Facebook, but it also has a learning center area where we can add videos. So we record all of the sessions that we do on Zoom. We do usually 3 or 4 a month. Although this year attendance has been just, everybody's so overwhelmed. So we haven't been having, this is our biggest attendance so far. So as we get more people attending, then we'll offer even more events. But we try to do a variety of self-care events like yoga or Tai Chi or emotional freedom technique. Basically any healing modality that we find our members and other educators are using, we ask them to share and lead a session for us. So sometimes it's members leading sessions, and sometimes we bring in authors and experts. Sometimes we do longer PDs, like in the summer. We use our membership dues to pay experts as consultants, and they'll lead longer workshops for us and dive deeper trainings. And then we put the recordings on our Learning Center in our member site, and then you can earn, for watching those, you can earn CEUs if you're a social worker, or PDHs if you're a teacher. We've even partnered with University of Sioux Falls to have you be able to earn graduate credits. And you can earn 2 graduate credits for doing our micro-credential program. And then we have it that you can earn 1 for watching. Right now we have it set up that if every time you watch 24 hours of content on our member site that you can earn that evidence of completion to get those CEUs and PDs. But so that's just a little bit about it. Does anybody have any questions about our professional membership? I thought this would just be a great chance to share a little bit more about COSEM with everybody and to have it recorded. So when new members start, they can get a little introduction and meet me, or then kind of learn about the org. But I am the executive director, so I generally like to be behind the scenes, and I just serve the educators and our board, and whatever ideas they come up with, I help make happen. We'll pause, take a minute to breathe. How about you, Carrie? Any questions after all that?
I don't think so. I want to go back and explore the site some more now.
Yeah, I could, if anybody wants to see, maybe I'll just pop that up since I'm still sharing the screen. So this is what our membership site looks like. And I'm going to go to the discovery area. So we have our upcoming events. So today's was the introduction to mindfulness in the classroom, and anybody can add events. So there's another member who is, she was an educator in Champaign, Illinois, and they have an organization there called the Mindful Teacher Foundation, and they lead mindful moments, like for a half hour twice a week. So she shares those here, and anybody can join for free. We have chapters. I didn't bring that up, but chapters are pretty much the heart of our mission. They're kind of where all the grassroots inspired action happens. So not only are we this cooperative organization for learning together, but we are trying to advance the field of mindfulness in education, help it gain momentum, and spread the word about the benefits of it. And we do that a lot through our chapters. And so in Illinois, we have 6 local chapters so far. We have one in, let's see if I'm counted up right, DeKalb. We have one in Crystal Lake now, that's the newer one. We have northwest suburbs around Arlington Heights. We have one in the North Shore and in Chicago, and in we partner with Case DuPage before the COVID. So that's kind of like the Glen Ellen, Downers Grove area. And they met in person quarterly, and now we're all in Illinois, we're meeting, or I think all of them right now are meeting virtually. We have active chapters in Delaware, New York, Georgia, Washington, DC, Virginia. So we have about 18 chapters all kind of getting started right now. Really just passionate educators volunteering their time to connect each other. Often you don't know who, like you think you're on this island all by yourself trying to like integrate mindfulness and try to figure it out. And then you're through COSEM, you realize, oh, one district over, there's someone doing the same thing that I'm trying to do. Like, let's get together and work together and meet together. Potentially write grants together. It's just, to start collaborating like that is really empowering, and COSEM is a platform for doing that. We have on November 10th, our next PD event is on guiding meditations in the classroom with an educator who's in New York, who's written a few books. So that'll be a great one. Also, November 20th, we have a Saturday morning retreat coming up led by another educator who is she's doing her practicum in yoga therapy. So she's going to teach us some of what she's learned this summer in those classes. In the featured section, what I do is I put out a weekly mindful check-in. So each week they're different. And for instance, last week we did a mindful check-in with affirmations. So it kind of just will give you ideas of things you can do in class, or if you're leading staff meetings or staff mindful minutes. And We have our learning center with, we put all of our past conference sessions here. So we have over 100 videos already of just past conference sessions since we've had 3 years of that. We also have an equity-based conversation series led by our president, our board president, Tovi. And quarterly, she meets with thought leaders and who are maybe a director of equity or who have written different books on the topic, and she'll have conversations with them. We put all of our self-care sessions here. In September, we did a stress management and resiliency training. One of our members is a school counselor in South Dakota, and she did a training with a medical doctor, Dr. Sood, on a special training. So she offered to do a 4-week session on that. And so we recorded it so anybody can get CEUs and PDHs for watching those after the fact. So that's kind of what our member site looks like. We have different groups. Where are our groups at? Oh, go here to groups. This is a fun area where we have different groups for each of our chapters. For instance, the Maryland chapter created a group. One of our members, Lindsay Frank, she led a workshop, I think with an ROE. And then this is kind of a gathering spot for everybody who took the workshop with her. We did a book club over the summer on how to train a wild elephant. It was a fun, I think we did it for 6 weeks. And so we created a group for that. We have one on discounts and free resources because often there's mindfulness programs and resources who reach out to us and they're wanting to help spread the word, and they often give discounts, sometimes even for free. So that's another benefit of coming with joining COSEM. I think I just saw something in the. So yeah, someone asked if it costs anything to join, and individual membership is $79.99 for the year. But again, we do full scholarships for anyone who wants. And this is a very simple process. You just click a link on the membership page on our website and you can join for free. And pretty much the same for our conference, where as a nonprofit, we try to, anybody who wants to get to our conference and maybe needs help with having a free ticket to get there because they know they're going to have to pay for the hotel and whatnot, that we want anybody who's passionate about this topic to be able to make a way for them to learn with us.